Hi class, here we are going to do a demonstration on how to draw the Campbell Soups can. Now your cans are going to be different. You guys are going to create different labels. So for that, you are going to need a 9 by 12 piece of paper. If you don't have a 9 by 12 piece of paper, you can use an 8 by 12 or 8 by 10. Whatever size that you can actually find, as long as you can divide the paper into 4 equal rectangles, and that when you put your hand over the drawing of the can, the can or the size of the can is almost as big as your hand. So we don't want to work on a small piece of paper where the can is going to be tiny. The drawing of the can is going to be tiny. All right, so as long as you find a piece of paper that when you measure it, you're going to measure it in the middle here on each side, and then draw a line. Make sure that your lines are perpendicular, meaning that your vertical line, it's vertical, not slanted. Your horizontal line is horizontal, not diagonal. All right? So I measure this paper. This paper is 9 inches wide and almost 12 inches tall. And once this paper was divided, I had enough space here to create the shape of the can, of the soup can, to be 3.5 inches wide and almost 4.5 inches tall. So you use your ruler, you use the side of the inches here, and you measure half of 9 is 4.5. You mark it, and then you draw the line. Half of 12 is 6. You mark it here and then draw the line. Now here you just grab this length, 4.5 we said, right? 4.5, and you kind of center it into this space here so you can have the same space at the top and at the bottom. Okay, the same thing here, 4.5 inches. And then you just draw your vertical lines first, and then you're going to draw an ellipse. All right, so I'm going to do a demonstration right here, if this allows it. Yeah. So I have a length which will be, let me move my paper a little so I make more room. 4.5, 4.5, right? Here. Approximately. As long as you have almost, oh, this is kind of slanted, so let me, yeah. See, that's why. Let me redraw it. It's a little better. Okay, let me measure it again. 4.5 almost. And then here, I'm going to have to move my paper since I'm working with, in front of me there's a tripod that I'm using as a document camera. 4.5 here. I'm trying to make it parallel to this edge, you see? Okay, so approximately we have, make this even, the height of the can. Now, to draw the ellipse, you just draw a curved line here and another curved line here. Okay? So you don't want to end up with a circle. You want to end up with an ellipse. Ellipse is an oval shape. Okay? If you draw a circle, it's gonna look distorted. Now, that's the top of the can. We're giving the illusion that this is the top of the can, and the bottom will be just a curved line. Okay, you draw it loosely. Then for the label, you draw also a curved line. Since this is a round object, we're giving the illusion that this label wraps around this round object. Okay? There you go. I'm spacing these out. I mean, you can space them out. At this point, you can space them out just using your eyeballing it. It doesn't have to be exact, because these are going to vary. What it has to be similar and very close in length are the cans. So that you want the cans to be the same height, because when we think about the concept that Andy Warhol applied in his artwork of repetition, and he called it serialization, then at least we want to maintain a consistency of the overall shape. So the same thing, we're going to do the same process. Again, you know, it's 4.5. And here I have my already marked the space in between this edge and this edge, because I already measured here approximately 3.5. It's a little over, a little less actually, a little less, which is fine. I mean, it's okay. So let me move this again. So 4.5 here. There you go. Okay, so again, we are going to draw that curved line, and then that curves up, and then this one curves down, and then sort of like with very loosely. Don't be afraid to draw several lines until you get the shape that you want. This could be adjusted a little. All right, so, and then here the same, if you need to erase this, and if it doesn't look like this one here, that's fine. Like I want to adjust the corners, maybe the corners need to be higher. So, and then again, let me here come up with a different kind of design for the label. I'm just going to keep it plain. This has two lines, and this it's going to be plain. Okay, so here we're going to do the same, and then we're going to add a design on each can. So what you're going to do after you draw all 4 cans, you are going to choose the name of an artist. I will provide you with a list of names from artists that you can actually draw on each label. All right. Of course, since it's a narrow label, there's not a lot of space. I will provide you with names of artists whose names are short. Like, for instance, Goya, it's only 4 letters. Dali, 4 letters. Monet is 5 letters. Renoir, it's about 6 letters. So, from 4 to 6 letters, you can use the name of the artist. If you don't find a name that you want to use on the list that I'll provide you, then you can research it on your own and try to find the name for that artist. Okay, if you find some artist that is not on the list. Now, ideally, you want to express the style of the artist, in certain ways, in the way you draw the name. Like, for instance, Dali, he was an artist from the Surrealist style. So, and he used to draw eyeballs everywhere. So, for Dali, there's an eyeball there for the A. And he used to have this very loose, curved lines in his artwork. And he would also draw, he has this painting where you could see a couch that has the shape of lips. So that's why I drew the lips here. Okay, so for Monet, Monet is well known for his haystacks, and I drew a little haystack here. And Renoir is known for drawing and painting nature. So there's a little rim of flowers over here. Now then you can identify each can with what the can contains. In this case, Goya is a Goya soup, Dali salad, and actually an artist called Red Grooms has an artwork called Dali salad. And Monet puree, something that is smashed. It could be a potato puree or tomato puree. And Renoir smoothie, since he likes leaves and plants and vegetables, so and fruits. So Renoir was for smoothie. And so you have 4 different cans with 4 different brands emulating names of artists, and also with slightly unique details for each can, where you can identify the style of the artist. Okay, basically what I'm going to be grading you on is going to be how well you divide the space on your paper, how well you center those lines, how well you draw each can, okay, with a label, and how well you design the name of the artist. The style, incorporating the style is extra. That's optional. As long as you draw the name of the artist, center and clean, that's what I'm expecting you to do. All right, I know this is a little extra, the fact that each of these may have a different look and a different style. Other than that, it's pretty consistent what you have to do, just the repetition of the same shape of the can on each rectangle. There's 4 different rectangles, or I'm sorry, 4 equal rectangles with 4 equal cans that have 4 different names from artists. All right, so that's what you want to do. Now, after you draw everything, and one of the things that I forgot to mention is, please draw the rim of the can here, to give it the illusion that there's a rim here, as cans have. That's one of the things. Now, when you go over with your Sharpie, hopefully you all have a Sharpie available. For the straight lines, you can use your ruler. Please use your ruler as much as possible, all right? At least for the edges here. We're not going to trace this line. This line won't be traced, the line that divides the paper into 4 equal rectangles. Please stay away from that, because we're going to use color for that. All right, so that's it. That's all you want to use to trace the ruler, and then you can go over your lines loosely. Nobody says that you have to do it perfectly. Actually, it's sometimes when you trace, it's easier to lift up your marker, because in that way, basically what you do is you are having more control. You have more control over what you're tracing, rather than if you stay, if you trace this way, it also looks a little bit less expressive. You want to enhance the way you actually drill with a pencil. And the way you drill with a pencil was by lifting up your pencil, right? So here I'm lifting up, and so that sketchy line is what we're actually aiming for. Because when we look at pictures of reproductions of other artists, it looks very clean on a photograph. But if we were to see the original, actually, you could see the marks of the pencil, the brush strokes, whatever the artist used to create a work of art. You could notice on the original one. On the photographs, when you see it in a smaller scale, when you see it on a cleaner surface like a photograph, especially when you look at it in a book, in an art book, it looks cleaner. But that's not exactly how the artist created it, And that's a little bit of the beauty of an original artwork. Just not completely, it's not very polished as you may see it on a reproduction, on a postcard. So there you go. So as you keep lifting up your Sharpie or your marker, whatever you're using, maybe you're using a colored pencil, whatever coloring material that you have that you can highlight your design. See? There you go. Because we're going to be adding color. And when you start adding color in this particular style, then the lines are going to disappear. And at least Andy Warhol, had the ability to create a style that it was very graphic, meaning that people can see it right away. That lines were actually clear, not necessarily super clean, as in the lines that a printer will print, but clear to the eye of the viewer. Okay, so basically the background around each can will be designed. You're going to design the background around each can with a different pattern. Try to use 2 or 3 different colors and try to vary the pattern that you have in each background. Okay, you either vary the color or you vary the direction of line. Let's say here we have diagonals more spaced out, creating this diagonal stripes. And then it's red, black, red, the pattern of 2 different colors. Here, since we already said that the style in the Lee's artwork, it's mainly, you can find a lot of curvy lines. This background has curved lines throughout the background, and the color is different, as you can see. Here, okay, even though the patterns are similar, now that I notice, it has two different colors. Now you can make, let's say we can make this pattern even more, let's look at it with purple. Although purple and yellow, since we're working on yellow paper, purple, it may not look very purple, because when you mix purple and yellow together, it neutralizes. But you can see somewhat that is kind of like a darker purple. So we're adding this color here to differentiate from this background here, to make it look different. And that way we create contrast between these two rectangles. That's the purpose, to create contrast between these two backgrounds. Since we are avoiding drawing a line in between, we don't want to do that. Because we want some kind of, even though these are 4 different squares, we want some kind of unity. We don't want to separate with a dark line in between. Here. So you can see now there's a little more of a difference. Even here, when you, there you go. It looks better. So these I can leave, I think I can leave it this way, Or also, you got the option, let's say this was your artwork, you would have the option to maybe add another color, but I wouldn't add a darker color, because then this contrast, for instance, will go away. So you want to enhance the contrast, especially when we talk about pop art. And the pop-up artists created a lot of contrast with color, with pattern, with different shapes. So it's very eye-catching. Running out of the marker here. Another thing that I wanted to show you in this demonstration is that here, for this design, I'm using a finer pen. I used a Sharpie, right? And this is a finer Sharpie. The fine pen Sharpie, you can get this at Walmart, you can get this anywhere, maybe Walgreens, any pharmacy, maybe Publix, these are everywhere. And the advantage of these is that you can shade and create a finer line when you're shading. In combination of the line that you already have from the Sharpie, you can create a finer line. And at the same time, a darker value. Doing the hatching, this is when you draw little lines across this way, this is called hatching. And when you cross them out, it's cross hatching. If I were to cross out these, this will be the cross hatching. So When you use this finer Sharpie, it gives you the effect of something that could be a little more realistic, just a little slightly more realistic. Okay, especially when we want to enhance Dali's style. You know, he had that quality in his artwork. You know, he used to shade his figures, whatever he drew on his canvases, he used to shade it in a way that looked realistic, but at the same time, you know, they were surreal, they were beyond real. Okay, so that's Dali's. Anything for Dali will work. Now for Goya, actually for Goya also maybe, you know, we can use the finer pen. Because Goya also worked realistically, and he used something called chiaroscuro, in which, you know, you combine light and dark shades. So this will enhance a little bit of Goya style. Okay, here too. There you go. Okay, not too much because Dali is more like to make this a little different. All right, for Monet, definitely Monet was an impressionist, so we are going to pretend that these are little brush strokes and blue. Random, you can do it random because he was very loose when applying his brush strokes. Let's say, you know, finish with a blue, and then we'll go on with a warmer color. He was into color temperature, warm colors, cool colors, and here, you know, and then maybe we can look for a yellow marker. Although on yellow paper you can't really notice, but guess what? It gets smudged, you know, and when it's smudged, it gives you that impressionistic effect of color. So we'll work with that right here. There you go. And then here too, you know, we can pretend this is a little haystack, you know, and then some where's the green? Some green. We already went over with our Sharpie over the lines that we used to draw these words. So we have the freedom now to just add color randomly without worrying that we're going to be covering the pencil lines. You know, the lines are going to stand out no matter what. Okay, so another thing that you could do on the entire can is to shade in the sides. You can shade in the sides. Let's go back to this one here. You can shade in the sides with a Sharpie, but not all of them. I'm going to use this one the fine pen Sharpie for the least can. How you see it, to give the effect that this is a round object. Just a slight effect, you know. You don't want to overdo it, since this is a very clean, it is a clean style. That's why we're working with markers and Sharpies. You can use also color pencils. I'm going to demonstrate one using color pencils. But once you start shading around the edges where you marked with a Sharpie, then it starts, you know, to work better as an object, you know, that we identify as a can. Here, let's do this edge, little cross hatching. When you do the lines, spread it out like this. It created a lighter value. You know, have a transition between this very light value that we already have on the paper, which is yellow, and the darker value that we created here around the edge. Okay, so that's for the Dali's can. So I'm gonna show you in a little bit